Hey everybody, I'm Zach and I like movies, and I'm here for a review of Beetlejuice. This is the latest from Beetlejuice originator, Tim Burton, and he's back. Michael Keaton is back as the ghost with the most, the juice himself, and also Winona Ryder is back as everyone's favorite first goth crush, Lydia Deetz. And it's interesting that, honestly, it's still kind of amazing that we're talking about this. Like, there's been such a long rumored and much long talked about like potential that there might be a Beetlejuice sequel for so long, about as long as since I've like known Beetlejuice, that it's kind of crazy that it does exist even now. Like, no, they haven't gone Hawaiian, which would have been fun in its own way, I think. But like the fact that we're here and it exists, and it's so surprising, and it's also it was a little worrying because given like Tim Burton's track record as of the past like decade. It just been not, it's not like this sharp falling off. It's just been this like, it's like watching a balloon just like slowly deflate over time. The quality just has been sort of just like, it's not been consistent. It's just his shtick felt kind of old and tired out, and he wasn't like feeling any reinventive, and he certainly wasn't doing himself any favors with that Dumbo remake, which was the last feature he made as a director. And granted, he like did some directing for the Wednesday show, but he's back in the director's chair again for Beetlejuice, and there was some fear going in, given how like legacy sequels, they're like a dime a dozen these days, and especially when you have like something that's like as much a settled classic like Beetlejuice, and you get most of the original cast again. I mean, granted, you don't have the Maitlands. Gina Davis is retired not by now, and Alec Baldwin was busy, let's say. But honestly, walking out of the theater, I was pretty impressed. Honestly, I think this is a pretty solid sequel. And even considering like what we get out of it, I am kind of impressed, to be honest. So what happens is that it's about Lydia. It's focusing on Lydia Deetz, who she's grown up by now, and she's working as like a ghost hunter Elvira show, but she actually does see the ghosts. And she has like a manager slash boyfriend, Justin Theroux, and she has a bad relationship. She has a bit of a strained relationship with her daughter Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega. Which, by the way, Jenna Ortega as the daughter of Lydia Deetz is just perfect casting there. But things happen. But also, she seems to be haunted, and she's seen Beetlejuice because Beetlejuice was traumatizing for her, and then when her dad dies, she has to kind of confront things about like tensions between her and like some older resentments with her stepmother, Delia Deetz, who was once again played by Catherine O'Hara, who is hilarious, always hysterical in this. But at that same time, you have Beetlejuice again, Michael Keaton back as Beetlejuice, who's trying to do some scheme to like get out of the demon realm, and like just he's trying to once again get back the one, get Lydia, who's like, I guess, like the one that got away from him. And at that same time, his ex-wife is back, who's played by Monica Belucci, as like this stapled together soul-sucking demon. And then Astrid gets tricked into the afterlife world, and Lydia is forced through circumstances to partner up with Beetlejuice to get her back. And that's the basic summary of what happens in Beetlejuice. And one thing I would criticize this movie for is that it does kind of take a while to get going. kind of like the first one in that there's not much Beetlejuicing. It's a while before the general plot like really kicks in for such a movie as tight as that. And there is a little bit more to this. And granted, I do like that it gives us time to spend more time with Lydia and Astrid and sort of like see where they are and getting more emotionally invested in their drama and the relationship with Adelia and stuff. And on one hand, I do like that, but on the other, I do like that we are spending so much time with Lydia and with Astrid. But at the same time, it naturally just would have felt off, because the original Beetlejuice is such a tight movie. There's like no filler in that movie. It's just like moment to moment, gag to gag. It's a tight movie. Hardly a second is wasted. But here there is like more time spent, and also with the original Beetlejuice, there's not much by way of emotional stakes. I mean, there is kind of at like the last minute in it, but because just kind of like, oh, the movie needs like a climax or something. But here there is like much more emotional and dramatic stakes to Lydia and Astrid and their relationship, and them potentially repairing the relationship, and also like Lydia feeling like all super stressed out because seeing ghosts a lot kind of puts a damper on the relationship, and also there's a lot of grief given that Astrid's dad has passed away, and Lydia can't see his ghost for some reason. But honestly, like even having that does kind of like make this feel a little more weird and a little more like kind of more atypical in that sense. But to be fair, once this movie does get going and we have Michael Keaton just straight up, when the juice does get loose, and he's just he's just bouncing off the walls, and he's just like throwing gags like this, like the rude, crude stand-up comic genie that he is. It's a real blast. And honestly, there's a lot of like solid jokes that you get out of like all these other supporting characters, and honestly, I do have to appreciate that there's not really any of those like moments of like those like point and clap moments in this where like, oh, it lovingly pays reference to this old thing, to this like thing that you remember, and like it's not, the movie doesn't like stop and say like, you remember this thing, and you're not just right for loving this thing, you were important for remembering this thing kind of moment. But like the relief I felt when that moment in the first trailer where they had this like child's choir moment of singing Deo by Harry Belafonte, but in the movie itself, they use that as a gag for Delia's artistic pretensions. The relief I felt was worth the price of admission alone, and it's such a solid gag, and given the context of the scene that it happens in, and it's and honestly, there's a lot of solid bits here, and also something I can really appreciate is that it doesn't feel like it was like a mandated sequel. This genuinely did feel like it was a labor of love from Tim Burton. And he really, I think he really did try to capture the original spirit in like not just the like production design, but also a lot of effects. There are a lot of great practical effects. Some of them are like clearly like this, oh, you're just using there's like some like receptionist gag where like it's just a skeleton from a Halloween store. It looks like this skeleton off of a Craig Ferguson show. and also like you get a lot of like good stuff with like there's this fun effect of Monica Bellucci's character when she like Dolores, when she like sucks the soul out of a person, like when she sucks the soul out of Danny DeVito. His like body just like shrinks up like plastic wrap and just like flops ops. It's really funny. And also, you also get like other fun characters, and you also get like not just fun characters in the afterlife, but also like sort of like showing more of like the weird mundane like jobs that happen in this afterlife. Like there's like you have Willem Dafoe as this cop, and yeah, he's a cop, but in life he was an actor who played these like Dirty Harry style cop movies that he just like basically gets to live through by being this like zombie cop. Which, by the way, like yeah, the ship has sailed for Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, but this did sort of low-key open the door for a 48 hours style movie with Beetlejuice and cop Willem Dafoe, where Beetlejuice is not just the Eddie Murphy, he's the guy they're looking for. Which, if I was a betting man, that's what I think Beetlejuice should be. But, and regardless, I think the amount of comedy that it gets out of these moments, and the just sheer fun that both the cast is clearly having and Burton is having too. And honestly, that's something I think is really appreciated with especially nowadays, with like, because yeah, it does feel like Tim cared, and they didn't just want to do this because they felt like they needed to. It felt like the kind of story that felt worthwhile, using the characters again and coming back. And also, I do think they were like sort of pulling from certain aspects of the other Beetlejuice stuff material that came before. I feel like some of these designs and these other like some of these like character designs and these like sort of concepts of like other afterlife stations, and like they get like a customs agent, like a customs station it's stuff, and like other creepy like monster designs that they would see out of the cartoon, and even kind of this like and also this like forced alliance of convenience that Lydia has to have with Beetlejuice. Kind of feels like maybe they were aping a bit out of not just the show, but also a little bit out of the Broadway show, and even honestly, yeah, even out of the Broadway show, like they sort of take a cue from that. What with like, instead of Lydia having it like being like all moody and melancholic about having a dead mom in the show, in here it's Lydia's daughter being moody and melancholic about having a dead dad. And it felt, that kind of made sense. And I gotta say, the actors here are clearly having fun. Like Catherine, most every line out of Catherine O'Hara's mouth just cracks me up, and she's again, Jenna Ortega is just perfect casting for this. Like, she's got the deadpan, she's got the cynicism, and she and Winona Ryder have very believable chemistry, and like I would say that Lydia is kind of stuck playing the straight woman here, especially like given, which kind of makes sense given how like just full of the screen, just how much of the screen that Beetlejuice takes up, that Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice takes up. And I do think that like Michael is a little bit more reserved as Beetlejuice comparatively. Like it's been 30 years. He's not a young Mr. Juice anymore. But I do think that like he's clearly in it. He knows Beetlejuice's ticks inside and out. Like just like the way he just kind of, his eyes just kind of like glaze hungrily over like an audience of people that he's just messing with, and like like also. And like just the lengths he goes to are just so ridiculous. Like just like him having like a full on musical number where forcing everyone to dance for his own amusement is just so in character, and there's just such it's just so much fun, and I really felt the effort. I felt the fun too, but I do think that again, in terms of that structure, there's a little, it does feel overstuffed, because there's some plot lines, not just with like Beetle, not just with like, you know, there's like Lydia and her, like Lydia and Astrid stuff. There's like a subplot with Delia, Delia trying to make art out of her mourning. Then there's like Beetlejuice trying to like escape his ex-wife Dolores, which by the way, they also like threw in a fun thing about Beetlejuice's backstory, which was just perfect. And that threat, and also there's like, well, also there's the stuff like Willem Dafoe trying to stop Beetlejuice eventually, and it feels like a lot. And also there's more human drama with Lydia and Justin Theroux's character, who honestly, he is the weakest link, and I like Justin Theroux and all, but his character feels like a wet blanket. It feels like he's not funny enough to really justify the amount of time that we spend with him, and we do spend a chunk with him. And maybe if he was funny, maybe if he was acted a little more ridiculous, like, you know, like he's clearly manipulative and kind of condescending with Lydia, but none of it felt fun. None of it felt really fun with him. He wasn't like a funny kind of asshole or anything. If he was more like pompous and if he was more like cartoonishly pompous, like Otho was in the original Beetlejuice. If he was more Otho, then, or at least more in that tone, then I think he would have been. I think it would have made his character go down a lot smoother. But honestly, like I do think some of the stuff they do with like the human realm, they do want to give genuine emotion and melancholy about, you know, about wanting us to emotionally invest in these characters, which I do like, and I do like the characters, but it also feels like you're sacrificing more comedic potential for that, which I feel like, especially if you're trying to be more in touch with the spirit of the original movie, they do tend to lean more towards jokes. They do tend to lean more towards the gags. It felt like they were making jokes from the melancholy more than like a melancholy first, but then comes the jokes, you know, kind of, you know, that kind of sense. But honestly, and as much as that stuff does kind of drag the movie down, I do think Beetlejuice is worthy of being called a worthwhile sequel. I think the comedy was solid. I think the production design was really fun. The makeup was really fun. Like, wow, they had a absolute blast with some of these monster designs. There's one design that they keep turning to. I don't want to spoil it, but it's not only a really good effect, it's so funny. I don't want to get that way. I'll let you see that for yourselves. And yeah, I thought all the actors were having a lot of fun. And you really felt the effort. And I really felt the effort here. I feel that, like, despite any misgivings I have going in, and even some like issues I had with some of the pacing and some of the emotional beats and some character stuff that I felt were a little I think Beetlejuice is such a blast. I had a lot of fun, and I think if you like the original Beetlejuice, I think you'll like this. And yeah, it looks like it'll be a hit, and I'm low key hoping that this does well enough to justify a potential third one. Not like again, the ship has sailed for Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, but if they would, they have ideas. Or if not a third movie, give us another Beetlejuice cartoon. I want to see more Beetlejuice stuff. It's so fun. I love this. I love this stuff. And I kind of feel like, thinking over, I've kind of been splitting hairs on, like, do I give this a strong 6? Because yeah, it is real. I've kind of been feeling like a strong 6 to a light 7. I do recommend this a lot. I do recommend this. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. And yeah, that's Beetlejuice. What did you think of it? Did you also like it? And yeah, that'll be it. I'm Zach. I like movies. I have a lot more movies to watch. And I hope you watch movies too. And I hope you also beetle your juices. And I will see you all later.